Right, big thing today you're going to be seeing in the news is that the Prime Minister will travel to Ukraine later today for talks with the country's president. It's a bid to find a solution, some sort of solution to the tensions in the region.
His trip coincides with the UK announcing £88 million of new funding for the Ukraine. We're joined now by the security specialist, Geddes, to discuss all of this. Very good morning to you. So this planned trip is happening today. A large wad of money going to the Ukrainians as well. How much will that help the situation?
Well, in terms of a military effort, it's going to be kind of segued into all the military support that's being provided, because quite a bit has been provided already, and various other members of the EU and NATO are obviously supporting. The 88 million, I think, is really more towards helping infrastructure and helping Ukraine on a much more localised level. How much 88 million is really going to make in relative terms, it's probably quite small.
So, sorry, this is not arms, this is not personnel. You reckon this is to build roads and railways and put in fibre, broadband, or why?
To a certain extent. I mean, again, it's all part of, again, making it much more resilient, much more robust. We're bearing in mind, in terms of this particular Russian offensive, we're considering that more to be ambiguous and foggy, as we've discussed before, than it is necessarily in an overt military fashion. So it's providing that sort of support in that respect.
What will have you seen, if anything? You know, we've talked to you before. Have you seen any movement? Have you seen any progress? Have you seen any shift from either side? I think we're saying UK is becoming much more prominent and enjoying its role of prominence, and we can see how this deflects from the Prime Minister's troubles at home, why it would be in his interest to become more and more involved. And he's going to be loving going to Ukraine today. Have you seen any discernible shift, or are we still in the same situation?
Well, it's still in negotiation, and to be honest, negotiations are going to go on for a while. I think, you know, as we've discussed before, I think the fundamental strategic tool that's going to be used here is going to be the Magnitsky Act, which is going to obviously impose powers on the various oligarch trustees of Putin than I think anything else. Macron has been on the phone with Putin 4 times, it's understood, in the last week.
What's that about? Is that to jockey for position, to take away the importance that Britain is building up for itself, or what's that about?
I think it's a unilateral support, really, for Ukraine, and it's strength in numbers, Eamon, more than anything else. It's showing that everybody is opposed to Putin's actions right now. Everybody is putting the pressure on Putin, and each country individually can impose its particular own sanctions. So, you know, there will be certain countries that will be more aligned to others, and in terms of a political sort of platform, they can put more pressure on those other allies of Russia to say, don't take their gas, don't take their business, make it difficult for them. And we know to hit Putin in the pocket is really the only way we're going to stop him.
And Liz Truss announcing yesterday that laws have been changed in this country to help us go after those who've had these so-called golden visas, 700 or so millionaires living in so-called London grad, this kind of mini Moscow on the Thames. How significant will that be? And are there legitimate concerns that actually, by going after some of those people who have connections with the Kremlin, we actually will end up harming our own economy, many of them big donors, for example, to the Tory party?
Well, it's a very good point, Isabel. In terms of those that will be targeted, I think it will be done in a tranched approach. It will start off with perhaps 50 or 100 or so oligarch trustees. Those will be strategically considered, those that won't actually cause as much disruption to the UK as possible. It's going to be those that are using their personal wealth, obviously, for personal gain. This is buying residences, properties, real estate of various types. Not necessarily that are invested into infrastructure in the United Kingdom, as you've mentioned before, Eamon. So I think the case is it's going to be done bit by bit. And the more the squeeze is put on, the more Putin will feel the pain. Because we know Putin's probably worth in excess of 200 billion, So to get these oligarch trustees around the world, it's going to make it very, very difficult. It's going to put a pinch on his international influence.
Well, in the meantime, the diplomatic dance goes on.
Indeed.
So it does. Will, thanks very much indeed.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.